Very often, you hear people talk about, congratulating you for concluding at least this phase of your study and then moving out into the real world. This is a notion that we reject here at McNally Smith because something we've tried very hard to do is from the very moment these students and all of our students enter this college, we try to provide real-world experiences for you right from the beginning. And I think in many respects we succeed, you succeed. I have to say personally, this is a really bittersweet day for me, and I hope, I believe, I know to be true for a lot of you. This is a class, it's the largest class we have graduated, and it is a class that contains so many people that mean so much to this community that it's really going to be very hard to say goodbye, even if it's only temporary, and we know you'll be friends and colleagues forever. But there's such a wonderful class here, and I hate to even mention any names because I could mention every name, and in fact, soon we will mention every name. But I've seen Alec Kozak, who you just heard playing the guitar, performing in so many high-level professional gigs that you'd think he's already a young professional, and you'd be right. I have had the great pleasure of singing myself with Cara Loudon at a fundraising event that raised over $2,000 for the McNally Smith Foundation. I've seen our string players, Greg and Rebecca and Allison, playing with their fantastic teacher, Randy Sabine, who's had them on stage all over the country already. So I think you get the idea. We have very much our goal is to prepare students to make a life in music, and it starts from the day you walk in the door. The main message that I want to talk to you about today in this charge to the class is to emphasize the importance of you being clear on what you want and making sure that you think about that in advance and not move randomly through your life, but that you know what you want and you go out to get it. You've already made a great start by choosing to pursue your passion. Never in my career have I found college graduates in a school of music here because their parents made them come. No, you can't go major in business, honey. That would be a lousy choice. You need to be a musician. That's a secure career. Let's do that. It does not happen that way. You're here because you love, you're passionate about music or some aspect of the music business or the recording of musicians, writing songs, and you've already made that choice. Knowing what your goals are, setting them and pursuing them with flexible mind and with awareness is the most important message that I can give you. About, 20 years ago or so, I had been in a long phase in my musical career of being focused primarily on classical music. Played classical guitar. We have a young singer here. Excellent. And in composition, but I'd grown up as a rock player and blues player, and I was lured back into playing in a blues band back in Boston. How many of you have heard of the band J. Giles? J. Giles, big band. Maybe some of you perhaps not as much. They haven't concertized so much in the last 15 or 20 years. But in Boston, they were a huge band. They toured the world with the Rolling Stones a number of times. They still have many platinum records. They were very successful. And I had the opportunity to join a blues band that the bass player was Danny Klein. And Danny Klein was the bass player from the J. Giles band and a certified rock star. And I thought, okay, this will be cool. I'll play with this band. And it was very cool. It was great fun. We didn't play too many gigs, but a couple of times a month, and I just had a great time. I was the lead guitar player, lead singer, having a wonderful time with this. And Danny was a great guy, very fun to work with. But one night he came up to me after the gig, He said, man, you know, your guitar playing, you sound great. You sound really cool, but you play a different solo on the tune every night. And I say, well, yeah. I mean, I'm an improviser. I'm just making this stuff up. It's fun. He says, well, that's not how it's done. I said, I didn't know what he was talking about. He said, well, no, really, when Jay Giles, who was the guitar player in that band, said he played the same solo every night, and when he'd start his second chorus, I knew exactly what he was going to do, and I would kick the bass line up a notch, up an octave. Seth, the keyboard player, would drop down an octave. We would expand the range, and we knew exactly what everybody was going to do, and here was his key line. That's how you whip a crowd into a frenzy. I thought, wow. And I thought about that for a long time. So I've really learned something. They had a goal. And really, trust me, nobody could whip a crowd into a frenzy like the Jay Giles Band. I mean, they were just insane that way. They were a huge success. And I thought, wow, okay, that's something to know. You choreograph this, everybody knows what's going on. Bing, there you go. And I thought about it. And then I thought about it a little more and said, but you know what? I mean, I'm 45 years old. I'm just having a great time. I got a day gig. I like to improvise. I don't want to play the same solo every night. That's not interesting to me. So even though this guy was a rock star and a great guy and he knew how to do the rock star thing, I thought it actually doesn't really fit my goals. It fit his goals when they were trying to succeed and make money, and they did. And so it was the right choice for him and the band. It was not the right choice for me. Knowing what your goals are and making the right choices for what your goals are, not somebody else's, is key. And it's easy to be influenced by people around you that you respect and admire, but it doesn't mean their goals are right for you. Edgar Allan Poe, who's, of course, one of the great writers in American literature and wrote fabulous short stories, wrote an essay called The Philosophy of Composition. And in this essay, he spoke about how he created his short stories. He said, first of all, you decide on the effect you want to create. Often with Poe, it was an atmosphere of fear or death or doom or something, So what's the effect you want to create? And then you decide what is the tone and what are the incidents that are going to lead towards that. And then, of course, what are the dramatic moments? What's the story going to be, so to speak? But then he said the first thing he does after that is he writes the ending of the story. Because then everything that develops from the beginning is leading inexorably to that moment of climax, and everything is working to enhance the climax. Another example of knowing a goal, which can then help to inform the choices you make and make sure that everything is moving in the direction that you want it to go. The most important lesson I ever learned about practicing an instrument was to make sure that every time I sat down, I had specific goals. Sometimes the goal was just simply to sit, pick up the guitar, and play and have fun, and that's fine. We want, to just enjoy it. But if I had a concert to prepare, I had to play a piece with somebody else. I mean, I had the goal of learning that piece. And so I would never sit down for efficient practice and just start playing the piece at the beginning and play it through 3 or 4 times. That it can be fun, but it's kind of a waste of time. You keep practicing the same mistakes. I mean, I would go to where the problems were. Where are the issues? What do I need to work on? And then you focus your practice. You have goals for what you're trying to do in this moment, and it made all the difference in the world. When you're working toward goals, you need persistence, discipline, focus, energy. But that's not enough either. You also need to be aware of change, and you need to be alert to what's changing around you, and you need to be able to adapt. Charles Darwin said, "It's not the strongest of the species that survives, nor is it the most intelligent. It's the one that is the most adaptable to change." When Jack McNally and Doug Smith started a music teaching institution 26, 27 years ago now, it was a guitar studio. These are two guitar players. Watch out for guitar players. You never tell what's going to happen. They started, a guitar studio teaching guitar lessons. They got a lot of students coming in, and the next thing you know, said, maybe if we added a bass teacher and a drum teacher, we could have even more business, and we'll turn this into a real growing concern. And they did, and they got some voice teachers and more guitar teachers and more teachers, and it grew. And what if we added some kind of theory classes and maybe even a diploma program or something? And it grew, and they were aware of the changing circumstances. The point was, they did not start 27 years ago and say, hey, let's start McNally Smith College of Music. That's something that developed along the way because they were disciplined, they were focused, they were creative, they were passionate, but they were also paying attention and finding opportunities and modifying their path as circumstances changed. In fact, this would probably be a pretty good time for me to introduce to you the two gentlemen about whom it can definitely be said, without them, none of us would be here today. Please recognize the talent and the accomplishments and the vision of Jack McNally and Doug Smith. The director of our Career Center, David Lewis, uses a phrase every now and then that I really love. He just looks around at all that's going on here and says, this is McNally Smith College of doing. Everybody is busy. Everybody is doing stuff. We don't just talk about the business of music, writing it, performing it, producing it, recording it. We're doing it every day. And nobody does it better than our wonderfully talented faculty. Without a doubt, this is the most wonderful collection of caring, dedicated, and talented and accomplished artist educators that I've ever had the pleasure of working with. So please join with me now in recognizing and thanking the amazing faculty of McNally Smith College of Music. And they're a good-looking group, too, aren't they? Just handsome and lovely. Wonderful. Now, in a few moments, you guys will be college graduates, but you're not unprepared and you're not on your own. Since day one, we've tried to create an environment that provides substantive experiences for you that eliminate the separation of college from the real world, so-called. You've built a network of friends and allies that will be with you always, helping and encouraging and caring about you. This is an important recognition today of your accomplishments, but it's not goodbye. We wish you every success and happiness you seek, and know that you will always be a part of our community of artists, educators, and friends at your alma mater, McNally Smith College of Music. Thank you all.